The Modhouse Tungsten. This is the brainchild of Ryan from Modhouse, the gentleman who actually created the first argon headphones in our community by modifying Fostex drivers from memory and then developing the first tungsten line where he decided, okay, I think I know what I'm doing now. I would like to create my own driver. So the very first edition of the single-sided magnet tungsten open back headphones was quite a success actually, but very, very hard to drive. Incredible sound, excellent price to performance ratio. We reviewed that on the channel a couple of years ago. This was followed by the Tungsten DS, the double-sided magnet array for the planar driver that got reviewed about 12 months ago. The review should be on the channel. If not, it'll be actually released after this one so you can contrast and compare. But contrast and compare to what? Original tungsten single-sided, I think it was roughly around $1,500. Tungsten DS at roughly around $2,200. Please check down below for the latest pricing. Now this is the latest iteration of tungsten, but it's a little bit more than that because this is the Tungsten V2. I believe that's the name he's going with. If there's anything in the subsequent time that changes, I will put it in the comment section below and I'll pin it. And I'm sure one of you boys or ladies will let me know anyway. So the case, the flight case, is very sturdy as per usual. You guys are familiar with this as we open it like so. You have the egg-shaped bubble foam interior but above to protect the headphones. Then we have a very nice foam. We have a very similar and yet not similar headphone here. What I can say right off the bat is if you're familiar with tungstens, you will be familiar with the Tungsten V2. But as always, there's always tiny bits of improvement and iteration, especially with this one, which we will discuss. Let me take the foam, etc. out of the flight case, place that here for you guys, and get rid of this heavy, chunky, that's satisfying flight case for you. It's quite heavy as well. So your headphones will definitely be protected. Gives it a bit more of that premium feel. Oh, now this is already right off the bat slightly different. We still get the Viking Weave collab cable with this. This is the copper cable 3.5. I think the termination and the jacks are Nutrix and they're still the same. The guy makes such a wonderful braid. Well done, Skedra, as always. Very, very beautiful braid. This is about 180 or so, a nice cable, but we will discuss cables with this headphone. Some of you are going to scream. If you're going to scream, put it in the comment section. It helps the algorithm, trust me. But there is quite a lot to discuss in regards to that in a small section, which we shall investigate together. These are the Tungsten V2s. They feel a bit lighter. Full specifications scrolling down the screen and updates as we go through them one by one so that you can pause and look at the screen yourself if you need to. I need to pause here for a quick second to say a big thank you to Ryan for sending this unit in for review and assessment to CMA. He is honestly one of the nicest guys I know and doesn't really ask, say this, do that. No, he just gives you the headphone and he takes feedback on board. He takes feedback not just from me, but from other reviewers and our boys and girls in the community. Very approachable, wonderful guy to talk to. So if you ever have any questions, I'm sure he will address them. I love the honeycomb grille design on this one. This one is black and dark gray. This is definitely an improvement. Shall I bring the other tungsten so we can do a side-by-side? Hold on. Okay, there's a lot to discuss here. As you can already see, this is quite a lot higher. So what he's done is, because this was my own Tungsten DS, the honeycomb design of the grille is being taken from this. This is not a sold unit. This is a pre-production sample unit that we usually get to work in the background in regards to feedback and things like that. So I'm glad he's gone with this open grille design, the honeycomb design. Is it a hexagon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think it's a hexagon. If it's not, you let me know. So first and foremost, the parts for this are all 3D printed with the first in the country, I believe, Cerakote powder design, so that it becomes scratch resistant and still be user replaceable for specific parts, etc. Very good. He has worked on the headband to make it more uniform in regards to weight distribution throughout versus the original Tungsten DS. So he's worked the headband, as we can see. The baffle and the cup itself is tremendously thinner, actually, when we put them side by side, as we can see here, like so. So this one is about that, that's about that. As you can see, the lip here has completely gone now. If I put them up side by side, I'm obviously all of this stuff will be in the B-roll so you guys can see carefully. The leather strap, this is stitched, I think, by the small team over at Modhouse, his missus, I believe, and there's some family members working on this headphone. This lovely family orientated company. I just like little companies like that. It's just, they take so much care and it's just so passionate and they are fearless. Boutique companies are not scared to go out of their way to do interesting things. Very, very nice. The 3.5 jack connection, I can see from this one, comparing them side by side like this, it's a little bit bigger. So therefore, Furitech connection and other Nutrix and other connection types for the 3.5 will have no problem settling on this cup, which goes inside and sits flush against the baffle. Lovely stuff. Not only that, but he has now gone away from soldering the actual 3.5 connection onto the board, or onto the driver, I should say. Rather than that, there's a custom PCB design now that actually is user replaceable. Not only that, the driver is now user replaceable, which makes life easier for him. The driver itself is kind of interesting. They have gone for a slightly thicker gold trace on this. Not only that, that yields apparently a much better consistency in regards to yields as they're producing the drivers, so therefore a lot less of drivers gets to be thrown in the bin, which is wonderful. Not only that, the trace is actually closer together and directly over the magnetic field, so less adhesive, I believe, is applied, so therefore less mass, therefore the driver moves a lot better and it's a more efficient driver. By being more efficient, this has dropped the drivability and the efficiency by about 20 to 30%, but he is still waiting to get official numbers from the measuring rigs, etc. And when those do come through, I will put it in the comment section down below so you guys are aware. Okie dokie dokie dokie. Lovely stuff. Now, the next improvement is the back of the magnetically connected pads, which just sits like so. Like that. So they are a lot thinner now and a lot lighter, so this will yield a lighter wear and a lighter weighted headphone. These pads, I believe, are the Caldera pads. I could be mistaken. I think they are. They're wedged, thicker at the back, thinner at the front. And this is the adjustable mechanism for the rods. The rods have been tweaked. Some screws have been eliminated and made more functionally feasible for putting the unit together. This, yeah, a definite improvement overall where the actual chassis is concerned. I'm going to place my DS on my head like so. Okay, and then I'm going to place V2 on my head like so. Feels a little bit lighter on the clamp, a tiny bit better weight distribution across the top of the head like so. We have the cable. Connect this to this, this to this, very easily plugged in, and then we are going to have a chat about what's by my feet on the solid steel racks. First little problem. This connection for the 3.5 feels a little bit more loose than the original, which is a bit more sturdy. So I think that comment needs to go back to Ryan so that It just seems like now if you turn your head tiny bit aggressively, this will come off and this will come undone. Better than breaking the PCB and the actual 3.5 connection, but it's something to be aware of. It's a little bit lighter on the lock-in mechanism for the 3.5 connection. Okay, what systems have I used? This review predominantly will be concentrating on the flagship to super flagship to absolutely, okay, what does the industry have to give to the hi-fi community, if not more. The cheaper end of the spectrum, sub $1,000, etc. There will be a couple of comments here and there, but predominantly this review will be concentrating across the board on how far these drivers can go. Let me know in the comment section if you want a full in-depth review in regards to this unit being driven on things like the Topping A90, DX9, S17 Pro Evo, all the rest of it. I can make another video for you guys when that is concerned, but this now is telling what the drivers can do. So let's have a butchers, shall we? Okay, great. That's working. So the equipment used to test the Tungsten V2. First of all, the CMA reference system, the Horizon 360 tube DAC, the Riviera Levante hybrid tube amplifier. Yes, this absolutely sings with tubes. And is there anything else next to me? Sale H1. Solid state amplifier here. Not only that, the EA4 from Luxury and Precision, powered by the Hugo 2 and 2 Go. And then on this side of me, we have the Red October XL down here. We have the Audema HP A1 Maestro, the WA33 JPS Elite. The WA33 JPS Elite and the Red October XL were both fed by the Horizon 360, the Audema HP A1 Maestro, and the beautiful, incredible D1 Unity from Total DAC. Quite a variety of high-end equipment tested here. AIC10 Riviera, I don't think I tested because I think that unit left before it had a chance to be tested. So let's talk about the sound. First and foremost, let's talk about the reference system. This headphone is the foundational sound characteristics of Tungsten and Tungsten DS. We have not departed from the house sound, and yes, it does have a house sound. Modhouse does have its own tonality that I've not heard from anything else. This is the rich headphone. This is the neutral dark headphone, depending on what it's on. But measurably, this is a neutral bright headphone like Susvara's. And incidentally, that was quite surprising to me. I've never really found Tungsten to be a bright headphone. I think predominantly for me, I concentrate so much of my listening in the mid-range that if the mid-range is dark and alternates to a lighter mid-range, a full wide spectrum, I tend to gravitate towards that than the air up top and the treble forward nature, like for example Diana DZ. This is a rich tactile headphone. It sounds like Tungsten DS. It sounds like Tungsten OG, just better. All right, what if you've never heard Tungsten? What does it sound like? Describe it to us. And here is what you will get. Here is the hearing test from CMA, from me. I don't rely on measurements too much beyond a certain glance because of all the rigs, problems, etc. But that's a video for another time. Let me know down below. Are you a frequency response dude or dudette? Or are you a listener? Do you trust your own ears above everything else? Let me know. With this setup like this, with tube Levante, tube Horizon 360 and the copper cable that it comes with, you get a neutral dark sound signature. You get a very rich, mid-centric, thick, weighted mid-bass, sub-bass extension sound. Vocals are tactile, and yet they are very present and lifelike and rich in its tactility. The biggest improvement from Tungsten DS to this have been the authority and speed and the tactility and weight of the driver. By this, I mean the tension on the driver seems to be almost perfect, where if there's a snap, it doesn't cut off. You get the full resonance of that snap. If you're listening to electronic music, it just doesn't go boop. The overtone and undertone, the harmonics around the main foundational tone itself is very well done. But I will put that but in the next section where Susvara comes in. And there'll be a comparison exclusively between this and Hifiman Susvara OG, which we will discuss. The tone is correct. The overtones is correct. You've got excellent weight for kick drums. You've got a nice weighted upper bass response, yet it does not bleed into the lower mids. So things will never come across thin or airy or overly ethereal. Yet you've got excellent to pretty damn good extension up top so that you don't feel claustrophobic in the headphones. It's a very, very holographic headphone so that it's very well layered, and the spherical nature of the stage is very etched out. Instruments are very etched out. The dynamics, for example, if you listen to a saxophone there, singer here like I was that track just now, drum kit behind them, and then you got the synth and stuff, and then the cascading nature of the instruments within the stage spanning out. Everything has got its own place, and it's got this beautiful, rich, neutral, dark tonality in the mid-range. It's very non-fatiguing. It's a very balanced, very articulated sound. Okay. What if when we climb into the treble region? I think this is where Susvara comes in. Susvara's treble timbre is the best in the industry. It's as simple as that, where planars and dynamic headphones are concerned. It's untouchable. And where this shows itself a lot of the time is not in the main overall tone that comes across. For example, a cymbal crash. It's not in the swelling of that tone. It's in the cascading nature of the disappearance of the resonance within the stage as it cascades away. And in the first usual strike that comes in right at the beginning. So you get this beautiful, you go, ooh, that's a really good snare drum. That's a really, really good cymbal as we're climbing up. And then as you hear the cascading nature of a ride cymbal fading away, it turns a bit swooshy. And I think that's where Susvara takes the edge. The in-between of the instruments, the reverb, the ambience of the room the track was recorded in, or the samples that were added to give that effect, comes across far more cleaner and far more uniform when you listen to Susvara's versus Tungsten V2. That's a $6,000 headphone, bear in mind. This is undercutting it by 2/3. I think this is a more instant euphonic headphone. I think this is more of a thicker sound. And actually on lower end equipment, lower end equipment, is that a word of the day? Tungsten V2 yields more of a performance than Susvara's do. Susvara's are crazy. They just go crazy when you put it on high-end gear. But on comparable equipment like the Levante and Horizon, Susvara's pulls ahead quite a bit. This headphone, the Tungsten V2, really does manage to scale up nicely. But being more efficient than the original Tungsten DS, I think you will have a much easier time of it on things like the top-end DX9, the Evo. Just remember, you will still need quite a large voltage headroom for tungstens. For example, the HPA1 Maestro, a solid state, this sounded almost as good as Red October XL, but in the solid state realm, because that amp does 30 volts on the rail. So you've got tremendous headroom. And then you've got the current to go with it, with a dual mono design inside, high current efficiency. You will get more when you give it more. When you give it little, it will give you good enough. It's definitely a 25% increase over Tungsten DS, but should you upgrade to this, If you have Tungsten DS, I know, because obviously if you don't have any tungstens, this is an instant buy. Price to performance ratio, this is absolutely insane for the price category. And they've worked on the chassis, they've worked on the baffle, they've worked on the pads and how the pads are connected to the, though I would love a lock-in mechanism at 180 like this rather than this sort of 360-degree rotation. I've already given feedback in regards to that. I'm not a big fan of that. They've worked on that. They've worked on the connections for the cables, so you've got more access for bigger cables if necessary, which we will talk about now, seeing as I've mentioned it. I have not seen anything like it in a long time where cables make such a tremendous difference on this headphone. This is something special we're working on at CMA. I can't talk about it yet, but this most likely, possibly might become a collab. This is a cable we're designing for headphones. I think it's a dielectric core, something crazy like that. The specifications were kind of ludicrous until I tested it. For some reason, on tube amplifiers, this cable gives you about 3 dB headroom over the stock copper one, so that is 3 dB louder on the same volume. On solid state, for some reason like the HPA1 Maestro, it was about 1 dB, barely any difference. But between the Chimera hanging on the Phonica International planar speakers and the copper from Skedra that comes with the headphone, and from this, I'm not going to call it the CMA collab now because it's just something we're working on, we're testing. It's not going to come into fruition for a long time, and I'll let you guys know when it does. But the technical performance, the bass response, the tonality change, when you put this cable on, the mid-range on this tonality shifts a little bit, which is really bizarre. It sounded a lot closer to Susvara unveiled mid-range, that tonality, brighter sound. It's a much brighter sounded headphone when you put it on this cable versus the copper one. This copper one has this horrible resonance around 6K. It's very subtle now compared to before, which I mentioned in the previous review. That does carry over to Susvaras as well. I tested this cable between them, between the Susvara and the Tungsten V2, and it's there. It's very subtle and it gives me a little bit of a headache. The Chimera doesn't have it. That's more of a liquidy sound, though not as impactful, I'd say. This is the most richest, darkest sounding of all three cables. This is the most neutral, and that neutral leading into, for example, like say, for some of you that might understand, a top-in A90 or a benchmark sound signature to a firm or a Bliss. That's the sort of difference I'm talking about. But the ease of volume and access and the bass response that this gives, in fact, I'm actually sending this to Ryan to test. It was quite shocking. So this headphone does make a very big difference when you put different cables on it. So if you do have this headphone, or when you get it, if you do try different cables, I'm sure you have lots of them lying around. There's always cables from other headphones. Put it in the comment section down below and let me know. What was your experience? Because for me and Ryan talked about it for about an hour. It was very bizarre. Conclusion. Tungsten V2, should you buy it? Abso-freaking-lutely. If you're a first-time tungsten buyer. The wait is quite long, but it's worth it. Tungsten DS owners, should you upgrade to V2? I would say in regards to that scenario, only if you want the upgrades, which is a little bit nicer chassis now, it's a bit more premium feeling, sound quality is a little bit better, but you are getting percentages upgrades, so bear that in mind. For those of you who do have DS, I think you will have to consider it very, very carefully because you already have a great headphone there. Yes, it's an upgrade, but it's a minor upgrade here and there. It's little tiny tweaks, which overall does bring quite a lot onto the table. The treble region of Tungsten V2 is a lot better than Tungsten DS, so for me, it's a no-brainer. I found the treble region a little bit fatiguing, as obviously Tungsten DS is here. I can test side by side. I can listen to this much longer without that issue. So for me, it would be an upgrade. But for some of you who don't have that issue or don't hear that or etc., put it in the comment section down below for me. What do you think? Will you be getting one? Is it worth your money? Let me know. Because I think for me, yes. It's a nice iteration and it's a nice upgrade overall. Well done, Ryan. I'm CodgyCO. If you like reviews such as these, consider subscribing, sharing, which helps the algorithm, helps our channel grow, and I deeply appreciate it. And if you really want to go beyond the Call of Duty, Patreon is there for you to get early reviews, jump in the Telegram chat, and you get to talk to me and any questions you may have in regards to system builds, etc., where I will try and assist you. Until the next one, peace.